While The Last of Us was never known as a multiplayer-first franchise, its universe is ripe for expansion, and over the last few years, Naughty Dog have reportedly been hard at work on some kind of secret multiplayer game set in The Last of Us universe. Now, the original game, it had a simple but addicting PvP mode, but it was unfortunately scrapped from the sequel due to the Naughty Dog wanting to put all their multiplayer efforts into a larger project. Now, hype behind the new project only grew after the remake of The Last of Us Part 1. It also cut the original's multiplayer. With the HBO adaptation around the corner, this is a prime time for us to at least learn more about the upcoming Last of Us multiplayer project, and you guys are in luck because we actually just had a pretty big substantial dump of leaks from Naughty Dog themselves via LinkedIn. Now, on top of all that, these new details from the dog seem to line up with the previous reports we've heard about the upcoming Sony multiplayer games. So we're going to try to put all the pieces of the puzzle together today. What's up, everybody? Chaos here. Last of Us multiplayer game details have been leaked. We're going to go over everything. Let me know in the comments what you want from this multiplayer game. If you're interested at all, drop a like. Make sure you guys are subscribed. And here we go. On November 11th, someone over on the Gaming League subreddit pointed out that the Fortnite senior systems designer, Anders Howard, had just left the company. And he jumped on board Naughty Dog as their new principal monetization designer. Ooh. This information all comes from Howard's own LinkedIn profile, so this is 100% happening. It's actually pretty astounding as a move when you consider how successful he was at Epic Games and the fact that he's been with Epic for 7 years. For all intents and purposes, this is one of the guys who invented the battle pass as we know it, so Naughty Dog likely gave him a sweet offer to jump ship. What does that mean for his career? What did Naughty Dog want him for? Well, given the fact that we know the dog is working on a big Last of Us multiplayer project and they probably want it out before the HBO show debuts, you could probably put the pieces together. With the godfather of the Battle Pass now working on the Last of Us multiplayer game, I think we could start to get some ideas of the nitty-gritty details here. There were previously rumors of the game being free to play, but if one of the main Fortnite brainiacs is behind it, I think those rumors now carry much more weight. Battle Pass progression systems aren't the most popular thing in the world with players, but developers love them, which is why they keep showing up in every single game that can hold one. Now, with the hiring of Anders Howard, I'm not 100% expecting the Last of Us multiplayer game to be free to play. Maybe with some kind of seasonal Battle Pass system, it kind of narrows down the actual gameplay loop. The Battle Pass probably wouldn't work in a big online survival game like DayZ, but it might work in more of a tactical shooter sense along the lines of maybe Escape from Tarkov. In fact, with the rising popularity of the extraction game mode, I wouldn't be shocked at all if there's some kind of extraction system in the Last of Us multiplayer game in one form or another. Now, given Sony's recent ordering of a Horizon MMO, which we did a video about if you want those details, it seems like they're trying to compete with Microsoft more as a multiplayer platform, so it would make sense that they're now pushing out some kind of tactical shooter, now that the Call of Duty's DMZ mode is likely going to draw more people to Microsoft's console in the long term. It's also no secret that recent Sony exclusives have not really paid much attention to multiplayer. The market, they haven't. So it's possible Sony is now trying to use their most popular shooter IP to create this giant AAA multiplayer shooter with a handful of ways to play. Maybe there's some kind of extraction mode alongside a more traditional PvP like the original Last of Us multiplayer was. I mean, I think that would be the best option since it would satisfy old and it would satisfy new fans of the franchise while also providing some nostalgia by recreating that awesome early 2010s multiplayer design that I miss. I know some of you do. Now let's keep going. With the hiring of a new head of monetization, I'm thinking the game is nearing completion. Now that the core game development has been completed, it's time to fit everything into the monetization skeleton, which means somebody needs to craft the skeleton. With the HBO show debuting in January of 2023, it's likely that Sony is putting the finishing touches on what has been in development for roughly 3 years. If the reports are to be believed, with The Last of Us multiplayer game dropping around the holidays or New Year, Sony could beef up the number of people using PlayStation Plus on their fancy new PS5 they got as a holiday gift. They also previously made it clear they intend to release all multiplayer-focused first-party games on the PC at the same time as the PlayStation consoles, which is how it worked for the now-forgotten Predator game from a couple years ago. It was also recently reported that Horizon's MMO is in the works with a team that previously worked on both Guild War games, which that's pretty insane. It is, if it ends up being true. Microsoft's first-party lineup pays much more attention to the multiplayer community than Sony's. But it seems franchises like Horizon and The Last of Us are going to be used to shift the tides. Even though Naughty Dog are likely working on their next main installment of the series, it's probably going to be a bit of time before we ever get our hands on that. They have a multiplayer project in the PC port of the Part 1 remake in the oven, and they're probably going to port Part 2 to the PC as well. It's also been rumored that some kind of Uncharted reboot is in the works, but even without that, Naughty Dog is busy. The multiplayer game is likely going to hold them over until the third game officially launches, and that keeps the community interested in the IP while also building up the world with the in-game story. Now, honestly, I think Sony may be looking to compete directly with Warzone here. Hear me out. It's an interesting angle. Think about it. A multiplayer shooter set in a modern-day setting in urban combat environments with an emphasis on never dying. I'm not saying the Last of Us multiplayer game is going to be a battle royale, but I think it will have some kind of extraction type game mode similar to DMZ and Tarkov. On top of that, there will likely be some kind of factions type mode that will surely appeal to classic COD fans. That way, not only will Sony improve their multiplayer community, but they're also going to have something to compete directly with Warzone once Microsoft takes over and the PlayStation 5 loses its exclusive COD perks. I think the timing of this is definitely a little suspicious. I'm not sure if Sony is really prepared to announce, market, and launch a Last of Us multiplayer game before the first episode of the HBO show airs, but who knows? Maybe they pull in Apex Legends. I think a surprise launch would benefit it. I mean, once again, look at Apex Legends. It shot right to the top of the charts. But with the finishing touches allegedly being put on the game, we should be seeing what Sony and Naughty Dog have in store for us with the Last of Us multiplayer game. I would assume sometime early next month or January. At the very least, they're going to announce the game before the HBO show airs, but the launch could end up being a little further into the year. If I'm thinking realistically, which I tried to do, that's what I think could happen. Then again, Sony has taken us by surprise before, so I'm not going to rule out a surprise launch in the next couple months, which actually I think would be brilliant. I go back one more time. Apex Legends, it was the perfect way to do it. It was all of a sudden in your hands, free. What is this? And it never slowed down. It just took off. So, what do you guys think? Would you play a Last of Us multiplayer game? If you're an Xbox player, would a Last of Us multiplayer game be enough for you to give PlayStation a shot? It may sound crazy, but I honestly think a free-to-play Last of Us MP game with gameplay similar to the original game's faction modes with some kind of extraction-based mode on top of that could be this weird, solid Warzone competitor. A lot of people have a ton of nostalgia for multiplayer shooters of the 2010s, and the original Last of Us Factions multiplayer, it played a big part in that movement. If you never played it, you're probably looking at me like I'm an idiot. I get it. If you were a PS3 player back in the day, you probably put some time into Factions, and hopefully this new game could revive some of that old school fun. Let me know what you guys think. I'll keep you posted if anything new breaks. I hope you're enjoying the new gaming news segments that we're doing on the channel as well, and I'll see you guys soon.